Thank you for your talk. I really enjoyed it. I think you may have answered this question, but perhaps I missed it. So, you give the example of how in a marriage sometimes there's a big power imbalance. So perhaps the lady has a double PhD and the guy is a diploma holder who's maybe an entrepreneur. So maybe he's making heaps of money, but he's not at par when it comes to intellect. And perhaps they met, and as they were getting older, they got married. So when they are in that situation and they realize, yes, we are in a situation where one person is at an intellectual high while the other person is not, how do they then figure out what to do to bring it to balance?
I would say to that situation, why did they get married in the first place? If they already knew about this imbalance in the first place, then I would say that they should have understood that they need to respect this difference. Because again, we have the example of the Prophet, because in sense of social status and achievement, you could say that Sayyidina Khadija was far higher than him in all of that. And he married her, 25 years age difference and everything. So does that make him less of a man? It didn't, right? It didn't. She didn't see it as something to feel humiliated about. She married him, loved him, because she saw the inner human being, the inner man. So when you operate at that very inner level and respect for each other, I think those things become secondary. And it's a bit to do about pride and arrogance and those kind of things, which if one or the other feels affected by this imbalance, they need to really work at that and dig at and say, why am I feeling like this? Maybe the person who's more qualified, maybe they're making some throwaway comments without thinking about the impact on the husband, say.
Okay.
So this is where communication comes into it. Maybe you can't say it immediately, because sometimes when you feel hurt about something, it's not something you can express at the time. But if you have good communication, you need to find the appropriate time to say, look, I just want to say that you said this comment and I felt a bit hurt about it, right? So therefore, if there's good communication, you should be able to express it. And most probably, the wife in that situation didn't realize that she was doing it. But I would say that if you've gone into the marriage thinking, as a woman, that I'm holier than thou because I have a double PhD or something, then that woman has some things to confront in herself, right? I recommend she does the Hajj in a very active way to dig deep and deal with her inner things. So it's about communication, I would say.
Sorry, Humera, you've answered part of the question. I think there's something else he's asking. In your relationship, it's special because you've got the looks, you've got the intelligence, and you've got the money. So this is not an issue, and I'm prepared to live with that.
Right.
I think the brother could be the issue. When you get married, you don't know what's going to happen. So 5 years into marriage or 7 years into marriage, that situation takes place.
Yes, fine. So that's fine. I accept that. So therefore, whenever it happens, you have to be aware and be able to, because if you don't address it, it builds up into problems.
No, but it is a problem, isn't it?
Okay, we're going to have a bit of an argument here. How do we resolve? Let's give an example. I'll listen to you.
No, I'm not.
I'm listening.
You see, this is the problem with women. Everything is a fight. I'm just trying to understand. I'm trying to listen. The feminine side of me is trying to struggle here. What is the brother is saying, and this is what is happening, is for some people, marriage opened new venues and new vistas. It could be, they are getting into marriage, suddenly they get a job, man or woman of them get promoted, others then the income changes. You could start marrying off having the same income, then suddenly, so it happens in a lot of circumstances now. What the person there wants, okay, not this wishy-washy thing you're saying.
He thinks I'm wishy-washy.
No, I'm just saying.
He says that you have to go straight for the jugular.
No, you want a particular. You want a particular way of dealing with the situation. It comes up. So, what are the practical things that can be done about the situation? It's not only about that, because there is, when it happens, it does cause a thing. By the way, first of all, the most interesting and fascinating thing so far this evening is to hear that in Malaysia, the number one source of problem is in-laws. I've said this all my life, nobody listens to me. You know, if you can marry a woman without the in-laws, life will be so easy and nice. But they come, the outlaws, with it. So this is what the question the brother is looking for. It also affects on other things. It's not only about the job and the income. It's also about, even I tell you something, about the physical looks. You all marry when, well, once upon a time I was a slim, tall, young man. I mean, I even loved myself at the time. But you change, and then how do you cope with those changes that are taking place? So what you're talking about is, what are the coping mechanisms about change in what is fundamental? Because whom you marry somebody yesterday is not the same today, and they're going to change tomorrow. So what are the variables and what are the constant that we should be looking for? Because, you know, there is a problem I find with marriage, is it tends to start on a very high, particularly in the Muslims, very idealistic. You know, we grow up, everybody wants to marry somebody like the wives of the Prophet. And everybody wants to marry somebody like the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The problem is, there's no Prophet to marry, my friend. There is me and Siddiq here, you have to choose. Old Jesus, you know. So, you have to not lower standards, but be realistic about what you're getting into. Situation. So I think that's one of the things, is one way of the thing is that if you really love each other and your spouse gets a second PhD or a third PhD, it's a matter of celebration for you that you are part of that process for them to grow. If they're getting I don't mind, honest. If tomorrow your income triples, so long as you give me my share of that triple, but you can become very rich.
I'm not required to give you anything, though.
You see? So this is a really important question, because the change takes place. So when you talk about 28 years, it's 28 years of change. It's about change. How do we cope with change? And what should we allow to change? And what we should be able to live with through that period.
If I add to that, I mean, I agree with that, in the sense that...
Alhamdulillah.
In that it's good that when you marry, first you have high hopes and high ambitions and you feel good. Otherwise, don't get married if you don't feel like that. But you have to also know, like Fuad says, it's true. We constantly go through changes. The world is, we have children, and then you change, and things change, and our expectations change. But that's why I think one of the things we are not very good at in the Muslim world is honest communication with each other, the ability to take time and say, how do I feel? First of all, you have to ask yourself, how do I feel about this change? And for the other person to, not be so hostile about the change. Like often you hear in couples that I know, they'll say that when we first got married, she did everything for me, and she did this, she did that, and now she tells me, oh, you go and make your breakfast or something. And, she's not the woman I married, right? So therefore it can't always, and I always say, look, when a woman loves a man, when she gets married, particularly in the beginning, a woman, when she shows her love, goes over the top. She does everything. How many women would agree with that? Agree or not? We go over the top, beyond what the call of duty, because we want to look after the man, we want to care for him, we love him, we do it whatever he's like. He might not even want us to do it, but we're doing it for him, right? Then, of course, He takes it for granted. He didn't ask us to do it. And then one day you say, you've got 2 or 3 kids or something and you can't do it any longer. And then he's got used to it. And then you'd be angry because he doesn't appreciate you. But then what you did was, right at the beginning, you went over the top, right? And I often advise women to say, don't put all your love on the table straight away, right? Go slowly. You know, you don't have to reach 5th gear straight away, right? Learn, go shopping with each other. From my experience, what I've seen is, if you don't capture a man's imagination in the first 18 months to bring him into your world and to share, then you go and you start living separate lives, right? So that you do things together, go out together, go shopping together, decide what you're going to cook together, think about things together. Even if you know that you're going out of your way to say, you know, even if you know what you want to cook and you want to give him some hints, you know, you want him to get, you know, be together in doing it because you set your pattern. And then when you don't have time so much, you have a pattern already. So this is what I think I would say from a woman's point of view.
Sorry to elevate, because I really think this is really, really important. When I was a student in the UK so many years ago, I had a brother who I shared, lived in a hostel. And he used to say, I really want to marry a convert girl because, you know, they're so pure when they become Muslim and stuff like that. So we used to hang around the mosque, central mosque, and luckily after a few months, a young lady did become a Muslim, and we approached her. She agreed, and these two got married. But the girl came from Birmingham. So the guy had to move to Birmingham. It was no problem. 4 months later, I decided to go to Birmingham and spend some time with him. So when I went, sitting down with him, talking, I was happy I visited him. So I said, how is life? He said, Alhamdulillah, it's good, but you know what is tough? I said, what is tough? He said, you know, this girl every day he wakes up, this is winter, it was one of the worst winters in the time. He wakes up for Fajr. So I said, Alhamdulillah, that is really good. That's what you wanted, a young Muslim, you know, person, partner. He says, yeah, it's okay, but we pray Fajr. Then he sits down, he says, teach me some Quran. He says, I want to go back and sleep. You see, already the inbuilt mechanism is that. So for us, the wealth, you talked about PhD, these are changes, but I think they are superficial. I think if then it to set into motion about our religion, we do change about our perception about religion, about the intensity about it. I'll tell you my personal story. A few years ago, suddenly I see my wife wake in the middle of the night, go in the corner and start praying, you know. And if you're sleeping and somebody is praying, you feel very guilty. Why are they doing this? That is number one. Number two, you want to wonder, what are they praying for? Because, you know, it's always, I always consider a wife is always antagonistic to your interests. You know, but she doesn't say aloud what her prayers are and stuff like that. So if in most instances, that spiritual development and stuff like that can get out of hand. You want to go and listen to certain kind, you want to do more dhikr, for instance, whatever you want to do. You want to go more lessons about Islam now, you want to find yourself, you've got a bit of time, the children have grown up, for instance, you want to go and listen to lectures. You know, it could be on both sides. You see, for us men, we go to the mosque and to go out, we've got so many facilities. It's more like a socializing event too and stuff. But for the woman, we are not used for not having that. Because if he means he goes to the mosque with you, then when you come home, the house is cold, there is no food. So these are inbuilt, I know. And it is an issue for people because as you grow older, you try to find something more, and it can turn you into, what I'm saying, not religious or anything, but to want to spend more of your time into these actions. And this is weird, but it can turn into a source of conflict, Islam itself and its practice.
Okay. Another question.
Sorry, we took so long to answer.